dimension in man's spiritual life, a dimension in human spiritual life. Tillich is saying in this chapter that there's two very wrong ways, two opposite ways, very different ways, but equally wrong ways to think about religion in relation to the human spirit, in relation to human culture. Let me read some of the opening sentences, a couple sentences from his first paragraph, and then I'll unpack some of that. Tillich wrote, "Some Christian theologians will ask whether religion is here considered as a creative element of the human spirit rather than as a gift of divine revelation. If one replies that religion is an aspect of man's spiritual life, they will turn away. Then some secular scientists will ask whether religion is to be considered a lasting quality of the human spirit instead of an effect of changing psychological and sociological conditions. And if one answers that religion is a necessary aspect of man's spiritual life, they will turn away like the theologians, but in an opposite direction." Okay, we'll reverse the order and talk about some folks who are totally secular. Secular basically means non-religious. But Tillich's talking about some folks who are totally secular in the sense they have no place at all, no room at all for religion. We might say they're atheists, believing in no divine power in any sense. As this quote I read suggests, some of them are social scientists, like psychologists or sociologists. In the history of religious theory, we might talk about people like Sigmund Freud or Emil Durkheim, and these folks are reductionists. Well, what does that mean? Well, they reduce religion to something totally human, just an illusion, a figment of the human imagination, childhood wishes and fears, Freud would say. Durkheim would say religion is actually just our worshiping society, and society is what gives us our life and our sense of belonging and our meaning and everything. So they reduce religion to something human. They reduce religion to culture. And some scientists he mentions, some secular scientists. Of course, some scientists are religious, but some are not, and believe that what the physical sciences reveal to us, knowledge of the physical world, is the only knowledge, the only reality there is. So for all those folks, religion is actually just culture. So we're left with only culture. If we talk about the relationship of religion and culture, we just bring it all into human culture. Let's go to the other side. Tillich also mentions some Christian theologians on the religious side. They do believe that religion has a place, but like these totally secular folk over here, they also tend to have the idea that there's something wrong with saying that religion is a part of the human spirit, or spirituality is a creative part of the human spirit. Of course, the problem for the secularists is that they believe that spirituality, religion is just these changing cultural things, nothing that's truly distinctively real and religious. On the other hand, these folks, they basically end up totally separating culture and religion by saying religion, true religion, our religion, is the religion that comes all from God. There's no human spiritual creativity, no human culture really involved in any substantial and any significant way. We could call these folks revelatory positivists. Notice Tillich mentioned revelation. The idea is then that At some point, God chose to reveal God's self just to me and my group. And we take a very kind of a positive or an absolutistic kind of approach that what God has revealed to my religion, that's the absolute truth that everyone else has to believe. Everything else is just culture, all these other religions, but my religion is the one true religion that's dropped down from heaven. Tillich believes that that kind of attitude ends up putting us into idolatry, into blasphemy, where we kind of take our own limited picture or understanding of God and saying, that's exactly what God revealed, just the way I'm telling you right now. So that in turn leads to intolerance, even persecution sometimes of those who don't share my particular religious outlook if I'm one of these folks on this side. So true religion is not cultural at all. There's nothing cultural about it. Now, Tillich talks a little bit more about those folks on the religious side, certain theologians. And basically what Tillich ends up saying is that these theologians overemphasize what's known as God's transcendence. Transcendence is a big theological word, a jargon word, but what it basically means is that God is beyond everything in this world. My notes back here. God is greater than anything and everything in this world. So God knows a lot more than you or I know, right? God's knowledge is perfect. We might have different ideas of what that perfect knowledge means, but God's knowledge is perfect. There's also something about space that's implied in the idea that God is beyond this world, transcends this world. And that is that God's not limited in space the way we are. For example, I can be right here in this place at this moment, but I can't be this place at the same time I was there, right? Because I'm just a limited, finite human being. But God is not limited in the same way. But there's a problem that those theologians that we've been talking about tend to overemphasize the transcendence of God. They end up separating God from our world. God made an appearance for some Christians 2,000 years ago in Jesus Christ. And then every now and then, God may make a guest appearance in our world today. Some of you may have seen sometimes driving along some billboards. And these billboards have a black background with white wording. Okay? And there's a quote, and it ends up at the end, it says God. And there's one of these billboards that really overemphasizes the transcendence of God. Has anyone seen that billboard? Well, it's the one that says, "Don't make me come down there, God." Think about that. That may be the kind of picture many of us actually have of God. That God's up in a special space called heaven, and here we're viewing heaven as a place or a space, and every once in a while, God may make a guest appearance in our world. God made a guest appearance, a special appearance with Jesus Christ for Christians, and maybe if we hope enough or things get bad enough, God will occasionally make a guest appearance today. Until it's saying that's exactly the mistake that those theologians make. And another way that Tillich talks about that that these theologians, along with these atheists, they both understand the meaning of God, the idea of God, as a being. And if you're a polytheist, there's various divine beings. But God is a being, limited, like an individual in heaven. And Tillich says that no, God is not a being, even the highest being. These theologians end up making the mistake of saying God is a being, the highest being, and that separates God from the world, from everything else. And that leads us to another idea of another theological idea called immanence. Theology, not just Christian, but Jewish and Islamic, has always held that God is both transcendent beyond the world, but also immanent in the world. And Tillich is saying that these theologians overemphasize the transcendence of God and don't do justice to God's presence in the world. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But for now, I'm going to erase our whiteboard, and then we'll start up again in a couple minutes.